Welcome back to the Bilge Brew Show. I'm Nate, Navy vet, RN coffee roaster, and the type of guy who can explain extraction in detail while forgetting why I walked into the room.
I'm Mason, and I'm here to represent the public. I want coffee that tastes good and doesn't leave a mouthful of grit like I just licked a driveway.
Perfect, because today is French press, one of the easiest ways to make a rich cup, and also one of the easiest ways to accidentally make coffee sludge.
French press is the most "this should be easy" coffee method, and yet I've had cups that tasted like warm pond water.
That's because the French press is forgiving until you do the two things it hates: grind wrong and leave it sitting forever.
Before we get into technique, I want the history because I keep hearing it's not actually French.
That's the fun part. It's called French press, but the timeline is like a group project where multiple people insist they did all the work.
So, where does it actually start?
One early milestone is an 1852 patent in France by Henri Ottomeyer and Jacques-Victor Delforge for a forerunner of the device, but it didn't fully seal like modern presses.
So it has French roots, but not the exact thing we use now.
Exactly, and later the design gets refined and repatented in different places, which is why everyone argues about who invented it.
When do we get the modern version?
A big step toward the modern-style sealing plunger is often credited to Italian designers Attilio Calimani and Giulio Moneta, patented in 1929 in the US, which is why people say the modern French press is kind of Italian.
So it's French in name, Italian in glow-up.
That's a fair way to put it, and it gets even more global, because a later redesign by Faliero Bondanini in 1958 becomes a major foundation for the style people recognize today, and companies like Bodum help popularize it.
So why do we still call it French?
Partly because early versions and patents were French, and partly because English language naming is messy. Different countries call it different things, and French press just stuck in North America.
What do other places call it?
A lot of people just call it a cafetiere, a press pot, a coffee plunger, or that glass thing that makes coffee taste strong.
I like press pot because it sounds like you're about to do something important.
It does, like you're forging coffee in a workshop.
Okay, history is fun, but let's define the thing in plain language. What is French press coffee mechanically?
It's full immersion brewing. The coffee grounds sit in the water for a set time, then you separate the grounds with a metal mesh filter by plunging.
So it's not like pour over where water passes through and leaves.
Right. Pour over is percolation. French press is soaking, like making tea, but with coffee.
And the metal filter is why it tastes different than paper filter coffee.
Exactly. The metal filter lets more oils and fine particles through, which usually means more texture and heavier body than paper filter methods.
That explains why French press can taste bigger.
Yes, and that bigger mouthfeel is why some coffees absolutely shine in French press and others can feel muted.
Muted how?
Paper filters can give you more clarity, like clean separation of flavors. The French press can blur the edges a bit because those oils and fines add weight.
So if someone wants a delicate super floral cup, French press might not be the best tool.
It can still work, but if your goal is clarity and bright detail, paper helps. If your goal is comfort and body, French press is a great move.
This is where you're going to say it's the working person brewer.
It kind of is. It's simple, it scales up easily, and it doesn't punish you for not having a gooseneck kettle and a ceremonial mindset.
I appreciate that. I don't always want to feel like I'm performing a ritual.
French press is the method for people who want a solid cup with minimal drama.
Okay, now teach me the core rule that keeps French press from turning into mud.
Rule 1. Use a coarse grind.
That's the one everyone says, but nobody explains. Why coarse?
Because the metal filter isn't as fine as paper. If your grind is too fine, more particles pass through and you get sludge, and you also slow the plunge and can over-extract.
So coarse grind is about texture and control.
Exactly. It's not just because internet said so. It's because the filter is different.
What's the second rule?
Rule 2. Don't let the brewed coffee keep sitting on the grounds after you plunge.
Because it keeps extracting.
Yes, and that's how you get that stale, bitter, "why does this taste like the bottom of a diner urn" flavor. A lot of brewing guides explicitly recommend decanting after plunging, so it doesn't continue to extract.
So you plunge and pour right away.
Plunge, then get it out of the press, into mugs or a carafe.
Okay, give me the simplest good recipe that a normal human can repeat.
Start with a straightforward coffee to water ratio. Use hot water, steep for a consistent time, then plunge slowly and decant.
You just described the concept. I need numbers.
All right. A very common starting point is about 1 part coffee to 15 parts, water by weight, and a steep time around 4 minutes is a widely used baseline.
I like that because it's not pretending there's only one true ratio.
Exactly. It's a starting line, not a religion.
Walk me through a single brew like I'm doing it right now.
You heat your water, you grind coarse, you preheat the press if you feel like it, you add the coffee, then you pour in water evenly and start a timer.
Do I stir?
Yes, a gentle stir right after you pour helps wet all the grounds so you don't get dry pockets floating on top.
Then I just wait?
Yep. Let it steep. Don't swirl it like a paint can. Just let time do the work.
At 4 minutes, I plunge.
At about 4 minutes, you plunge slowly. Think elevator, not guillotine.
Why slow?
If you plunge fast, you agitate the bed and push fines around, which can increase muddiness and create that gritty finish. Slow plunge keeps it calmer.
Then I pour it out immediately.
Yes, don't let it sit. Pour it out.
What about people who say French press tastes bitter no matter what?
Usually they're doing one of 3 things: grinding too fine, steeping too long, or leaving it sitting in the press after plunging.
Or using stale coffee.
Also that. Old coffee makes everything harder.
If someone says it tastes weak, what's the fix?
Either use a little more coffee, steep a little longer, or grind slightly finer. But only slightly because going too fine brings mud fast.
If someone says it tastes harsh or too intense,
Back the steep time down a bit. Make sure your water isn't boiling and check your ratio.
now I want the fun part. French press has the reputation of being old school. Is it actually old school?
It feels old school because it's analog and simple, but the modern device is basically a 20th century mashup of multiple inventions and patents.
So it's old school in vibe, not in a single clean origin story.
Exactly, it's like a classic car that's been rebuilt by 3 different mechanics in 3 different countries.
Do you have a favorite weird history detail?
I love that it's known by totally different names depending on where you are, which makes it feel like a secret handshake brewer.
That's true. If you say cafetiere in the wrong place, people look at you like you're ordering champagne.
Right, and if you say coffee plunger in North America, it sounds like a plumbing tool.
Okay, now let's talk about what coffees actually work best in a French press.
French press tends to reward coffees with natural body and deeper base notes, chocolate, spice, earthy tones, because the metal filter emphasizes texture.
So, this is where our pick comes in.
Exactly, and I'll keep it subtle and useful. If you want a French press coffee that just makes sense, a Sumatra single origin is a classic match for the method.
Because Sumatra is known for heavier body and earthier character.
That's the lane. And at Bilge Brew, our Sumatra single origin is Poseidon's Wrath, built for that full, grounded, this feels like coffee experience in a French press.
So you're not saying buy it, you're saying this style fits.
Exactly. French press is already a body-forward method. Poseidon's Wrath is a body-forward coffee. They line up.
What does line up taste like for the listener?
It tastes like a thicker mouthfeel, deeper base flavors, and a cup that doesn't feel thin the moment it cools down.
Also, if someone adds a splash of milk, it still holds together.
That's another benefit of that profile. Some coffees disappear with milk. A heavier coffee stays present.
Okay, what if someone only owns a French press and they're trying to pick one coffee to keep around?
Then you want something versatile, something that tastes good black but also works with milk and doesn't require perfect technique to be enjoyable.
You're describing Poseidon's Wrath again.
I am, but that's because it's a real use case. It's not a trick.
All right, now troubleshooting time, because French press people always complain about sludge.
Sludge is usually grind too fine, plunging too aggressively, or pouring the last inch of the cup where sediment settles.
So you're saying, don't pour the very bottom.
Exactly. If you want the cleanest cup, leave the last little bit in the press. That's where the fines collect.
I feel seen. I always pour the last bit and then act surprised.
That last sip is where optimism goes to die.
Another complaint, My coffee tastes weird, like rancid.
That's often dirty equipment. Old oils cling to the mesh and lid, and they turn flavors stale fast. Cleaning matters a lot with French press.
So if the coffee tastes bad and everything else is right, wash the press like you mean it.
Exactly. People will buy a new grinder before they clean the filter.
Now I want to connect this to the bigger picture for listeners. Why does French press matter in the world of coffee?
Because it teaches the fundamentals: ratio, steep time, grind size, and freshness. It's a simple lab where you can actually taste what changes do.
That's a good point. French press makes cause and effect obvious.
Yes, and if you want the coffee quality foundation behind everything, go listen to our specialty grade coffee episode after this one.
Because if the coffee going in isn't good, French press will still show you.
Exactly. French press doesn't hide much. It might soften sharp edges, but it can't turn low-quality coffee into something it isn't.
All right, wrap it up for me, like I'm about to go make a cup.
French press is immersion brewing with a metal filter, which gives you a rich, textured cup. The keys are a coarse grind, a consistent steep, a slow plunge, and pouring it out after plunging so it doesn't over-extract.
And if you want a coffee that naturally fits the method, our Sumatra single origin, Poseidon's Wrath, is a strong match because it plays perfectly with that full-body style.
That's it. Make it simple, keep it clean, don't drink the sediment like it's a challenge, and we'll see you next time on the Bilge Brew Show.